The 3-second episode. And actually, DJ, this is the first like fantasy football themed episode of the off season that our boy Mikey hasn't joined us for. You don't want me to say his name because you're mad at him. But the reason why he's missing tonight is because he has a fantasy football draft. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's August 24th. That's way too damn early to be doing your actual draft. So, DJ, if you had one piece of advice for Mikey and others out there that are drafting right now already and not waiting till Labor Day weekend, what would that piece of advice be?
I mean, it's simple, right? Don't be fucking stupid and chase the goddamn date to Labor Day weekend. That's it. Get drunk, have an extra day to recover, and draft after the preseason's over. That's it.
The main thing you said there was get drunk. So,
yeah,
let's get loaded because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first because we finished last.
Is it that we missed last week and you're just not strong enough to open beers anymore? Has it been that long? What happened?
No, I'm laughing because Mikey
my
is
God.
in the room.
Okay, folks, this was not planned, but as we are talking, we just threw Mikey into the stream. We just got done throwing you under the bus, and now you threw yourself into the stream. Welcome to the show, Mikey.
It's perfect timing. My draft just wrapped up. I saw the fucking Loaded Box thing go live on my Twitter, and I said, I have to jump in. I have zero prep for this whatsoever. What's going on?
You look like the hipster version of Christian McCaffrey right now.
You look better.
Thank you.
That's amazing. We just got done talking about how you should definitely wait until like Labor Day weekend, get drunk, have that recovery day for your draft, and not draft now because then you're going to, if you'd have drafted like 2 days ago, you'd have drafted Travis Etienne, and guess where he is?
Oh my
He's getting
God.
hit on by that bird, Liz Frank. Man, Ryan said it best. She's ruined more NFL players' careers than anyone I know.
It's so bad. One of the guys forgot that the draft was tonight, and his first – so it's a keeper league, so like the first 35 players are off the board or whatever, but he had like pick 206, and Travis Etienne got auto-drafted too.
Oh, Jesus.
Another reason. You got to let the auto-draft rankings get readjusted before all those damn injuries.
Terrible.
Well, welcome to the show, Mikey, and welcome the audience to the Loaded Box Podcast. We're continuing our fantasy football team-by-team previews. And today, whenever you may be listening to this, we are focusing in on the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. And as you'll see if you're watching on Twitter live or YouTube, I always put up the player that we're talking about, their ADP and where we have them ranked. But like I said in the intro, I didn't plan on Mikey tonight. So, Mikey, I don't have you included on these. But it's fine because we can just ad-lib, and all it is the ticker on the bottom anyways. But let's kick the damn show off with the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback, Derek Carr. I don't want to spend a ton of time on Derek Carr because he literally just meets the threshold of what we consider to be fantasy relevant for these episodes. He is quarterback 24 going in the middle of the 15th round, right at the end. I've got him quarterback 23. DJ's got him quarterback 17. Mikey, you're the great unknown, but you can probably chime in with where you have him. But DJ, with you having him in quarterback 17, you're obviously quite a bit higher than the consensus. Is Derek Carr the kind of quarterback that you would take a chance on and roll with as a starter? Or is he like, if you're rostering 2, you're cool with him as your backup?
I think this is just a case of fantasy football drafters getting bored with guys like that. They're bored, so they drop him in their rankings where I think he finished as a QB 13 last year, and now he's going as quarterback. What did you say? 21 or
24.
18? 24. That's just an insult. Like, he puts up decent enough fantasy numbers to get drafted well before that. His targets aren't any worse. He's added a more athletic receiving back than he's had in Kenyon Drake, better than DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard that he's had in the past. The weapons are just getting older at this point. It's not like they were good last year. The only person who lost to is Nelson Aguilar, who was probably besides Darren Waller, his best receiver, but it's not like those guys are getting any worse. So I don't know why we would expect, especially playing against like Mahomes twice, a team that can score, a bunch, but Chargers are going to be scoring a ton. I don't know. I would expect him to be any worse than what he put up for numbers last year. I think 13, I think me at 17 is his floor at this point.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Mikey, did you have a chance to see where you had him ranked?
Yeah, I pulled up the website so I can chime in on each of these. I have Derek Carr at QB 24 on the dot. I do think that he performs better than that. I think that he finishes, well within the top 24 for overall fantasy points. But like guys that I have ahead of him, like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, like Trevor Lawrence, like I don't know. Trevor Lawrence might not fit into this conversation, but Trey Lance and Justin Fields, like they're probably not going to start week 1, but they will be starting by the end of the season. And I think that overall they're going to reward significantly better fantasy points the weeks that you do have them. So, and Derek Carr is just kind of like, we talked a few weeks ago about how Kirk Cousins is not a sexy name. Derek Carr is far from a sexy name, and he doesn't have the same kind of upside that a guy like Kirk Cousins has. So like Derek Carr is just like at the very best a bye week filler who will probably skate by, get you those 15 to 17 points, and you'll call it a day.
Yeah, I don't have much to add, obviously, on Derek Carr, ranking him as my quarterback 23. I think it is safe to say that if I end up with him in a redraft league this year, something went wrong. Like I don't envision drafting him. I think there's other quarterbacks that you can make your quarterback 2. I don't want him as my quarterback 1. I don't have the list in front of me as to who I ranked higher. If you want to see exactly who I'm mentioning there, you can go to loadedboxpodcast.com and check out our fantasy rankings. But I would rather move on to their running backs because that is a position where they have 2 guys who are very fantasy relevant, because Josh Jacobs is going as the 18th running back off the board, Kenyon Drake going off the 39th, with Jacobs going in the middle of the 3rd and Drake going in the middle of the 9th. DJ, I know that you are a big-time Josh Jacobs truther, believer, owner in Dynasty, and you've got bad news to share to Kenyon Drake and his fans. So I'm going to let you kick this one off.
Here's the thing. I have Josh Jacobs in Dynasty. I also have James Robinson, whom I traded for with Cam Akers involved last year. Cam Akers gets hurt. Etienne gets drafted. Now he's hurt because he's playing with James Robinson. You just don't fuck with my Dynasty running backs. Kenyon Drake, I'm coming for that ass. No, I'm not coming for that ass, but I actually think he's less of a threat, obviously, to Josh Jacobs that Etienne was to James Robinson. Brandon fucking Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, I know, that is a blast. Josh Jacobs is still going to tote the rock. He's going to be the goal line guy. He's going to score touchdowns. I think Kenyon Drake's he's just going to be third down guy, but Josh Jacobs is going to be the horse. He's going to score touchdowns. He's still going to get his yards, and John Gruden still loves to get that guy the ball. He's only got a couple more years left probably on those legs, so you might as well use him. He's still a top 15 running back for me, and I think we're just drafting him. People are just trying to get ahead of his fallout, and it's not quite here yet in redraft leagues.
I know that Mikey's a bigger fan of numbers than you are, DJ. You believe in the eye test a little bit more, and Mikey's more of the hybrid numbers guy. Mikey, if I tell you that Kenyon Drake has PPR finishes in the last 3 years of RB14, RB17, and RB16, doesn't that make you want to just wait the extra 6 rounds and just take Kenyon Drake?
Yeah, it does. And that's one of the reasons why. I mean, I have Josh Jacobs as RB22. I have Kenyon Drake as RB29. So I think, Ben, you and I are actually really, really similar in both of these rankings. And I've always been a little bit lower than Josh Jacobs than most people, but also like Kenyon Drake, he knows how to produce numbers. Like he is.
You hate Kenyon Drake.
I hate Kenyon Drake. I really do. I hated his guts last year because I'm a big Chase Edmonds fan, a massive Chase Edmonds fan. But Kenyon Drake is going to do to Josh Jacobs what he was doing to Chase Edmonds, where Kenyon Drake is the second best. Yes, I can, and I just did. Yes, I did, and I just did, and I'm drunk. Shut up. I just drafted.
You're the same situation.
I just drafted. You let me have this, damn it. Anyway, so Kenyon Drake is Josh Jacobs has not had competition like Kenyon Drake on the roster before. Kenyon Drake is going to have 90% of those third downs basically locked in the bag, and I would say at least 20% of the first 2 downs. And Kenyon Drake, albeit he's not a sexy person to have running for you on the goal line. He can get it in on the goal line, and he was trusted with that a lot in Arizona. So
2.1 yards per carry, or the fuck he put up.
it doesn't matter. He still got in the end zone plenty of times last year. Like,
but they already have that guy though. Like they did not have the dude in Arizona. Josh Jacobs is that guy. I mean,
and I get that.
He's not whatever the word you said. He's a compliment to Josh Jacobs. Right, and the other word. I don't know.
And I get that, but who's the head coach of the Raiders?
John Gruden.
Yes, he doesn't have workhorses, and he didn't use Josh Jacobs as a workhorse last year when there was less competition on the roster. And the thing with Josh Jacobs, listen, the thing with Josh Jacobs, and the reason why I have him all the way down to RB22, he has boom upside every single week. Like he could go off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in any given week, and I would not be surprised. But the issue with him is the consistency. It doesn't matter if he's getting you, 22 plus points 3 or 4 times a season. What matters is you look at it and he's getting you 7 points, 8 points, 7 points. You can't draft a guy as your, you can't draft a guy super duper high as a top 15 RB that's not going to be consistent for you.
I'm going to get a super duper tally going next.
It's just that it's such a fucking premium position. I talk about it all the time. He's a good running back in a premium position. He finished in the top 2 the first 2 years of his career so far. I'm going to go look at his game log now. I don't believe in anything that you just said.
Like ADP at 308, I'm not taking that any stretch of the imagination. I'm not taking that.
I wrote an article. I did like a fantasy preview for the website just about the Raiders, and I ended, I believe it was the Kenyon Drake portion of that preview, saying that I'm confident that the debate between these two players will be close to a 50-50 split as we approach fantasy draft season. And I think I'm spot on, because look at case in point right here. You two are on like polar opposites of this, and I'm somewhere in the middle, because I don't mind either at their ADP. I honestly don't. I agree with Mikey's take that Kenyon Drake is going to see that third down, that action. And I think the Josh Jacobs truthers have been waiting for him to evolve into this more of a pass catching role, because we've seen him do it at Alabama. And when he went to the Raiders, it just hasn't clicked yet. But that's what Drake is going to excel at. Like Josh Jacobs has not become the pass catching running back that we envisioned him becoming when he left Alabama. So I like them both at their ADP. If I'm going to target a Raiders running back this year, I'm Drake in the 9th.
I think this is a fantasy football people's issue. Especially when it comes to redraft, we want this guy to fall off because he's not the exciting PPR guy, but he's going to continue to put up yards. He's going to continue to score touchdowns, and I'm going to get him at a steal because people are going to let him drop, and I get his ADP way lower than what it should be, and I'm going to fucking pick that up all day.
Not to reignite the fire, but if you're taking him as presumably he'd be your RB2, right? In 308, presumably he'd be your RB2. Steal. How many points are you hoping to get out of your RB2 each week?
12.
12 out of your RB2, the guy that you're taking at 308, which is ahead of 15. Some pretty okay. Well,
convenient
bump. I know you
tiny position. It's such a tiny, it's a premium position. So the drop off is so big after probably like a Josh Jacobs territory.
Okay. Well, you're going to be disappointed then, because this is full point PPR, and I know you play half point PPR. Mm-hmm. He only scored more than 14 points 3 times all year in 2020. He scored less than 13 points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, which means that he's only had 3 big boom weeks. He had 6 weeks that you would consider busts, and then he had like 5 or 6 weeks he missed a week here, 5 or 6 weeks where he's right on pace for your RB2. So almost half the season he's just disappointed you, and I'm not
8 weeks with 12 plus points. 8 week with 12 plus points and half point PPR, but I'll take it.
I don't think you can count.
I love these debates that we have when each person has a different set of rankings up. Somehow everyone else's rankings match up in life. Your two never do.
Oh yeah, you don't count week 17, so 7.
Here we go. I don't mind spending a little bit more time on the running backs with this team, because the wide receiver position is very bleak when it comes to fantasy relevancy. So are we just going to agree to disagree, and we're just going to keep it at the fantasy community is just going to be split on these two?
Yeah, it's fine. That's
All
fine.
right.
Put your fucking hat back on.
Put your hat on, Mikey.
Fuck you.
All right, let's move on to those wide receivers then, because Henry Ruggs is probably the only one that's truly fantasy relevant, and that's being nice. He's wide receiver 49 right now. You've got John Brown going as wide receiver 69, Brian Edwards going as wide receiver 70. Once again, the very tail end of what I'm considering to be fantasy relevant for an episode like this. But those two guys probably aren't even being drafted. So I think I'd prefer that the majority of our time, unless you guys have a good feeling about one of those guys, would be spent on Henry Ruggs. And going into the draft, like, I was a huge Henry Ruggs guy. I wasn't as high on him as I was on Jerry Jeudy.
You have the biggest boner over Alabama wide receivers
Well,
of any Florida fan I've ever seen. I don't get it. Every single Alabama wide receiver, this kid is got full on his ding dong for.
I have an easy answer for the recent ones, and that's just because I forced myself to watch every Tua game for 2 years, assuming that he would be the Dolphins quarterback. So you can't help but fall in love with some of these wide receivers.
Ridley, Judy, fucking Cooper. It doesn't Julio. Like, every receiver that's ever played at Alabama, Ben has a fucking man crush on. Henry Ruggs, obviously, we were just saying it, but like, I didn't want to add him in there. But literally, you probably had a monster crush on that Jets guy that flaked out. What's his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of what his name is right now. It'll come to me.
Yeah, he fell out real quick. Was he in the league for 2 years?
Yeah. The crazy thing, though, with Ruggs is you think about him in that draft class last year, and you're like, well, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Judy or is it going to be Lamb? And then the Raiders shocked everyone, made Ruggs the wide receiver 1, and it kind of looks crazy. But at this point, like, if you're taking him, so he's going as the 9th pick in the 11th round, you're throwing a dart, and you're hoping that, you know what, catch lightning in a bottle here. We got a fast guy that if he gets behind the defense, which he did 2-3 times tops last year, maybe that becomes a little bit more consistent. Problem is Derek Carr's not traditionally the quarterback that makes a receiver like that fantasy relevant. Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's probably the one that's the best example of that. So if Henry Ruggs runs into that role and he basically gets Aguilar stats, that's not a bad pick to have, because DJ, I've got him as wide receiver 55. You're at wide receiver 64. I'm not the one that's going to go out of my way and follow my bias here towards Ruggs. Like, I'm not going to reach for him by any means. But if he's available in the 11th round, I'm going to be the one that throws the dart his way because it's worth it. Like, you guys have all been there that late in the draft. You're just throwing darts anyway. So at this point, you're going to get a guy that he's probably not a safe floor guy. He's going to have boom weeks. He's going to have shit weeks. But that's what you're going to live with at this point. So if you're having to throw him into a flex spot or a bye week or an injury type of guy, just here or there, it's not a bad player. So honestly, like I said, I would probably target both running backs at their ADP. I prefer Drake, but at their current ADP, I'm going to sound like not a homer, but just biased here because I like Alabama receivers.
Apparently.
But I'd probably target Ruggs at his ADP.
I would rather take Brian Edwards in the very last round of my draft than take Henry Ruggs in the 11th.
I don't.
I'm a Brian Edwards guy.
I honestly don't hate that take.
I'm
interesting.
I wouldn't say I'm a big Brian Edwards guy, but I bought into the hype last year, and I'm starting to buy into the hype again this year. Part of that is because I think Henry Ruggs is just not a good receiver. He's just a one-dimensional player who drew comparisons to Tyreek Hill that he absolutely shouldn't have been drawing. And it was a terrible pick whenever they picked him in the first round. But either way, I mean, Brian Edwards, he had so much hype last year. He had so much hype this year. I mean, there is a chance that he could be like the new age Devontae Parker, where he's supposed to break out. He has a really good preseason / training camp, and then he just does nothing. Ben, I know you know a lot about that. But I mean, the 11th pick, the 11th round, you can still find some pretty decent value along there. I'm not banking on Henry Ruggs because if he does have any fantasy relevant weeks, it's only going to be 2, maybe 3 times the entire year. And you're not going to start him those weeks. It's not going to work out that way for you. You're going to start in the wrong weeks. You're going to be chasing points. Brian Edwards, I'm just going to buy the hype in the very last round or take him as a waiver wire.
So again, it's Brian Edwards for me as well. And I pride myself. We talked about this with Terrace Marshall, I think, but I pride myself in waiting for that hype. And I think maybe the gambler in me now, the degenerate that I've become, makes me go against like major hype. So I see you touting Terrace Marshall and all these people about touting. I like to outweight that hype. So I'll wait a year when I hear people going crazy on that guy. Now I feel like it's time to jump on that Bryan Edwards train. I feel like people are a little more down, and now it's just camp hype and people don't want to hear it. Now I want to jump on Bryan Edwards. Fuck Henry Ruggs at this point, but I think it's the time to jump on Bryan Edwards just throw a little flyer in there.
The one thing that I would say that kind of just goes a little bit against Mikey, because I agree, like you could say that, yeah, he's a one-trick pony, he's a speed guy, and I don't have a ton of evidence to be able to throw that back at you. However, if you go back, you got to go back to college, you got to go back to some Alabama footage. He's good at the slant routes. He's good at getting the ball right away and making plays happen, just getting the balls in his hands. And maybe that's an area where Derek Carr can find some comfort with him. And then if you dink and dunk, you get Waller, you command safety help, you can hit Ruggs on that deep go and then go to his bread and butter from there. Put it this way, you can't get worse than last year, right? Like he had like that game winner against the Jets, and then but in that game he had
that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's true. He had a drop, he had fumbles, he had issues. Like he hit the rookie wall right away. He had a nice catch like week 1. He already had like 40 some yards in the first quarter, and then he got hurt. Like he didn't have the good offseason. He got out to a rough start. He didn't have the chemistry. There were just a lot of bad things happening with that team last year. So I want to give him a chance. I'll give him a chance on the 11th or 12th round and roll the dice with him. Do you guys have anything positive or negative to say about John Brown? Or
No,
is he just being ignored?
I'd rather have Henry Ruggs.
That's why Mikey shows back up for this podcast. Let's move on to the tight end, because this guy's a stud. He's moved his way in ADP past George Kittle. He's up to tight end 2 now. That's exactly where I have him. Mikey, I think you either have him at 2 or 3, correct?
I'm at 3.
You're at 3. We've had this debate a couple of times throughout all of this. I want DJ to lead it off, though, because he doesn't rank tight ends.
DJ, tell us all about Darren Waller. What would you be willing to give up for him in a trade?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not trading anything anymore. I got my 2 first-round picks. I'm going to sit on it. But, Darren Waller is good at tight end.
Is there any chance, though? So I've been hyping it up all offseason that if you can go like running back, tight end, and then receivers from then on, and pick Waller in that early 3rd round range, is that a strategy that you would ever consider, or are you just still like, I don't care how good Darren Waller is, I'm waiting till the freaking 10th round for my tight end?
Yeah, no, I'm not doing it. So I got to a point.
Would you take Josh Jacobs over Darren Waller?
Over Darren Waller?
If they're on the board at the same point. The current ADPs,
why would they both be on the board at the same point? Darren Waller's going to go well ahead of him.
Some weird shit could
not
happen.
necessarily, because Josh Jacobs is going 308. I mean, it's 7 picks, but
and Waller's
stranger things have happened.
Waller's 301.
2 or something? Oh, he is?
Yeah, 301. It's only a 7-pick difference.
So they're on the board, DJ.
Yeah, like if you're picking 304 and Waller falls just a few spots, are you taking him or Josh Jacobs?
What receivers are on the board?
Shut up! What are you doing?
What wide receivers are on the board?
Nah, he wants Waller over Jacobs, and he doesn't want to say.
No, I'd probably take. I don't know. It depends on my first 2 picks, though. Like you can't just throw a scenario out there and tell me what my first 2 picks are.
It's cool,
Have a take,
cool.
DJ. Let's
What are
go.
my first 2 picks?
Doesn't matter. You draft for value, not to fill need.
That's not true either, though.
You went on the waiver wire, baby.
Mikey, I don't know that we necessarily need to like hammer in Darren Waller. We all know how freaking great he is. We all do know that he would not fit well into this podcast. He put out a tweet a couple of days ago that he's 4 years sober. Congratulations to him. I couldn't do it. I texted DJ before this and said I can't remember if I'm on day 12 or 14 straight days of drinking. I've been on a bit of a bender here. But so hats off to Darren Waller, even though I'm not wearing one. But is there anything we need to add? I mean, he's obviously an early 3rd round pick, and I'm not going to hate on anyone for doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say, and I feel like whenever you mention Darren Waller talking about fantasy, you have to bring up George Kittle too, because that's really the debate, right? Like, who's the tight end two? And this is all you really need to know. George Kittle is for the upside, and Darren Waller is for the stability. But Darren Waller has arguably just as much upside as George Kittle with not nearly as much risk, because George Kittle can't ever seem to stay healthy. So I honestly, looking at my rankings, I George Kittle ahead of him at number 2. Might be kind of biased because for the first time ever, I have George Kittle on a fantasy team right now. Yep. So maybe I'm just like throwing him up there and hoping for the best. But I mean, when it all boils down, if you don't get Travis Kelce, Darren Waller is a pretty damn good consolation prize.
Mm-hmm. And ever since you said that on a podcast earlier, Mikey, I've been right there with you because I think our thinking was similar. I just never like said it out loud to hear it said. If you don't get one of those top 3-ish tight ends, that's when you do the DJ thing and you wait till you're picking like the 10th or the 12th one. You're getting the Robert Tonyan or the Mike Gesicki or whoever that ends up being. Like you're getting one of those guys. Just the hell with those guys because you've said the stat like the difference between tight end. What are the numbers like?
Yeah, so between like tight end 8 and tight end 16, there's like a 9-point difference.
Yeah, so wait. So grab one of those 3 guys or wait.
For me, it's just like I'm trying to scoop up at that when I see people taking those tight ends, I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna try to just take all the running backs and hog those fucking guys. And hopefully I can stream the tight ends like I did to success. I think it was 2-3 years ago. Like that again. Like I don't know, or grab like a Robert Tonyan or Mark Andrews a time in the rough later. So I'm just trying to fucking just gather every running back. So I probably would take Josh Jacobs in this situation.
Here we go. We got an answer. It took 5 minutes, but we got an answer.
That's gross. Anyway.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Before we go and transition to the Broncos, DJ, you give me shit like every weekend because I always say like what I'm doing or where I'm going, and you're always like, "Why do you always go somewhere?" Well, let me guess what I'm doing this weekend. I got a bachelor party.
God, of course.
Kind of near Green Bay, actually.
Worst dad in the world.
I am the 3rd best dad in the world.
Yeah, after me and Mikey.
No, Ryan. He has 17 kids.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan and Phillip Rivers. Those are the 2 best.
And Antonio Cromartie.
And then it's Mikey, and then it's you. And Mikey has no kids.
Cromartie. We forgot about the Cromartie. But yeah,
right,
finish up with your brilliant.
Well, guess what I'm bringing to the bachelor party? Because we have an Airbnb, and they have a grill, and I'm bringing the man grate because we've got like 9 or 10 dudes. And we're all going to do the same thing what we're doing on here. We're going to talk about football. We're going to want some good food. We're going to be pounding beers. Strippers. So what better way? Watch your mouth, DJ.
Sorry.
Just kidding. What better way than just enhance the flavor with a little bit of from Man Grate, though? Because I'm going to get those grill marks. Everyone's going to be like, oh, shit, how'd you do that? I'm like, well, it's the Man Grate. We're going to have no stick. We're going to have great flavor. Everyone's just going to love what the hell I'm throwing up on that grill. So it's going to be a bachelor party. I'm not going to throw up on the grill.
I was about to say, I don't think anyone wants you, whether it's on the man grate or not, you can't cook throw up, dude.
I tell you what, if there's anything that could make throw up good, though, it would be the man grate. That'd be the one way that you could make throw up good. But that's what I'm talking about now. I'm talking about mangrate.com, and you can get 25% off your grates and your brushes at that website, mangrate.com, by using promo code LOADED. So do like I do. Go somewhere wild every weekend. Bring your man grate with. Just impress everybody with your man meat. That's all I can say. With that, let's transition to the Denver Broncos, and they do not have a quarterback that is fantasy relevant right now because we don't even know who the starting quarterback is.
Teddy Lockwater.
Yeah.
So, Teddy Lockwater. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go right into the running back position because this one's very interesting because you've got 2 guys that are damn near identical in ADP, running back 27 and running back 31. That's, of course, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon going about a round away from each other, with Javonte Williams going mid-6, Melvin Gordon going mid-7. I think I said it on a recent podcast as well. I can't remember for sure. But it's funny because you look at my rankings and I actually have Melvin Gordon ranked about 7 spots higher than Javonte Williams. But I think when we do our next update, I might have to switch some shit around. Because
you might, yeah.
I like the upside. And here it is. Every year we've got these rookies where it's like I'm going to bet on the unknown versus something that's like stability that we know. Like we know the cap of Melvin Gordon at this point of his career.
Todd Gurley.
Exactly. We don't know what Javonte Williams holds. He could be that next stud running back. And it's like, man, you're sitting in there in the middle of the sixth. Maybe you go running back, tight end, wide receiver. Javonte Williams is your third running back. I kind of like that. And
I'm not waiting that long for Javonte Williams.
What's that?
So I'm not waiting that long for Javonte.
Well, that's the sixth round. That's like how I did that.
I got
you.
And
I think that's what we did in our mock draft that we did on loadedboxpodcast.com, another plug. I think that's what I ended up doing. I'm pretty sure I'm the one that got Javonte, and I probably took him around the sixth round. But I'm starting to like not be like totally opposed to that method. And Mikey, I don't have your rankings up, so I'll kick it to DJ as the in-house Javonte Williams hype guy because he was a huge fan of him in North Carolina. So DJ, safe to say that you're sitting there early sixth, late fifth. Javonte's off the board if you're up.
Yeah, it might be early fifth, depending on how I'm feeling. Melvin Gordon is he's already dealing with injury issues. This is who Melvin Gordon has become. Like he's not going to make it many weeks into the season healthy. I know. I'm Ben Morgan all of a sudden. He's not going to make it many weeks into the season.
Puberty, baby.
Healthy, and Javonte is just supremely more talented. I've on record saying that I think Javonte Williams was the most talented running back coming to this draft. I think he's going to be a monster. I'm not going to wait till the Sixers draft him. Actually, you know what, Ben? I'm going to guarantee you I end up with Javonte Williams Labor Day weekend.
When you should be drafted.
Least, yes, at least one round ahead of where he should be going because I want him in all leagues. The only hesitation I have is, they're not that talented of a team. They're not the great offensive line, but I think he is one of those running backs that can overcome the lack of talent, and he fucking can catch the ball. Like people seem to overlook the fact that he is a great receiver at running back. I want Javonte Williams everywhere. I haven't gotten him yet, and I'm very disappointed. But I swear, if in my next 3 redrafts, if I don't have Javonte in all 3 of them, I'm going to lose my mind.
That's why I'm so glad that Mikey made an appearance on this episode because earlier this offseason, you were that's by Melvin Gordon hype. So where do you fall on this one now, Mikey?
I took Javonte Williams over Melvin Gordon tonight in my draft.
Of course you did.
And you know what? I guarantee when we do the rankings, I might have Javonte Williams even higher than DJ does because with Melvin Gordon's injury stuff going on, I really didn't expect that, and just the state of the team in general. No, I didn't. But Javonte Williams very well could be think of early stage Melvin Gordon, what he was doing every single down. That's exactly what I could expect Javonte Williams to turn out being as soon as this year, but definitely at least by year 2. He's awesome. I have Javonte Williams at RB 31 and Melvin Gordon at 28, and I can't tell you how wrong I am on those rankings right now.
Me too.
Because I can tell you right now, just looking at these rankings, Javonte Williams he's definitely going above Travis Etienne now. But he very well might be somewhere between RB 22 and even RB 19 for me. Once I retouch my rankings, because I was really high on Javonte when I started doing my dynasty research. I hadn't looked much into him yet, and DJ was like, "Dude, you have to check this guy out." And I was already ready to tell DJ how bad this guy was because I just hate DJ. But I watched like 10, 15 minutes of film of this guy. Well, I started off by watching his highlights to get excited about him. And then I watched some like actual film and I was like, damn, like this guy is fucking good, dude. He's good.
You know what happened?
That's gambling DJ right there.
Well, one of 2 things just happened. Either 1, you guys are both outright liars, or 2, you guys have both changed your opinion in the matter of a week. Because I'm looking back at the mock draft we just did. I got Javonte Williams at 6'12". Wow. That means you guys, especially DJ, who drafted before me, that means in the 5th and the 6th round, you passed on Javonte. DJ, were you team 8?
7.
Oh, you took your other. 8. Wait. Okay, here's the question. You'll be able to know. Did you take Odell Beckham or did you take James Robinson?
James Robinson.
Okay, then you were team 7. Damn it! I wish it would have been someone else because you are a James Robinson guy, so I can't even give you too much crap.
Hey, that's probably, what's funny is I probably, now that I rethink it, if it was ETN was still healthy then, I don't know. It's my opinions change weekly. I probably would take Javonte over James Robinson at this point, or at that point. But now it's a toss up with ETN being injured.
The injury, yeah, and Mikey, just to see who you pick during this, you're probably not going to hate your pick either because I know you like this guy. You at 602 took T. Higgins.
Yeah, I'm a really big T. Higgins guy.
Devontae would be the guy.
What's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No, T. Higgins is awesome, and especially with do you guys see the Jamar Chase news? No one's talking about it, but no. Did you see his news?
I heard the baby mama drama.
His off-field news.
His girlfriend called him a pussy on the gram. I told DJ in our direct message that shit went off the. I'm cool with the drops. He'll be fine. He hasn't played football in over a year. But when your baby mama calls you a pussy on the gram, that's when shit gets real.
It's never.
You got my attention.
It's never good, but yeah. I mean, I know this one isn't about T. Higgins, so I'll just leave it as I do like T. Higgins. I would draft T. Situations aside, I would draft T. Higgins over Javante Williams in my draft right now. However, if it's a dynasty league, that's a different conversation. Javante Williams very well deserves to be a very early pick right now in dynasty leagues. But for redraft, and it kind of goes back to when we were talking about Trey Lance a couple weeks ago or last week, whenever the hell it was. We didn't do a show last week. A couple weeks ago when we were talking about Trey Lance, and I was saying look, I'm not drafting him for now. I'm drafting him for later because I think that he's going to have some severe upside when I need it the most. That's what you're getting in Javonte Williams, and I don't think you're going to have to wait nearly as long as a lot of people think.
Right.
Can it's going to be a little off, and I know Ben's tired because he's a little bitch, but can I ask a question real quick about Trey Lance?
Yes, Papa.
Have you seen the differences in opinion based off of the people who watched the first half? I watched both halves of that game. People who watched the first half of Trey Lance and the second half of Trey Lance in his game on Saturday or something. That's
like Justin Fields. That's the same thing Justin Fields did against the Dolphins. If you watch his first two drives, everyone was calling him a bust. 12 minutes later, the dude should have been the first pick in the draft.
Right, because he was terrible in the first half. Second half, he got a lot better, and everybody was like, "Oh, but is it also just a matter of competition changing and also getting work in the second?" So I think it's hard to make that judgment. I think he's got a lot of obviously very raw.
So I admittedly I did not watch that preseason game, but I'm assuming George Kittle was not in the game. I'm assuming was Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel both in there?
They both played in the first half.
So he was missing wide open guys. They were wide open. He was throwing late and not late, but just behind them or at their feet. It had nothing to do with the guy at the position. It was literally where he was putting the ball in the first half.
His interception
wide open.
Was thrown
over.
He's got a laser. I think he's going to have to develop a little bit more touch because, man, he just bullets everything.
He throws it too hard sometimes. But, yeah, there was 3 or 4 times the guy was wide open in that first half, and he just flat out was well behind the guy, it seemed like. He was throwing to where he was, not where he was going to be. So it had nothing to do with the guy in the game.
Well, either way, this is about Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. I know we didn't say anything positive about Melvin Gordon before he was dealing with any sort of injury issues. I was big on Melvin Gordon before they drafted Javonte Williams, and then they drafted Javonte Williams. They traded up to get Javonte Williams, and I was fuck, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect them to mutually part ways with Phillip Lindsay. I thought Melvin Gordon still had another year of being fantasy relevant because he is significantly better than Phillip Lindsay. But yeah, Javonte Williams all the way. This ADP. Yeah. Javonte.
Before we go to the wide receiver, do either of you change your ranking or get hesitant on drafting either of these running backs based on who wins the starting quarterback position, or is that irrelevant to you?
That's relevant.
I don't want Melvin Gordon at all in anywhere.
It won't come down
I won't
to quarterbacks for me though. I don't care who the quarterback is. Honestly, if it ends up being Teddy Bridgewater, I might be a little bit more excited than Drew Lock because we saw what Teddy was doing with Christian McCaffrey and Mike Davis last year. But it's obviously a completely different offense. It's not like Teddy Bridgewater gets to take those plays with him, so I don't even think it matters at that point.
Yeah, nothing changes, I don't think, in the game plan, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I was curious to see if you guys went the other way with that, but I agree. Let's go to the Broncos wide receivers, and once again, another one of my favorite wide receivers of all time, because he went to Alabama. He played with Tua. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I'm excited for this one. This is actually part of the reason I picked these teams is because of where their ADPs are and where myself and DJ have them ranked. Obviously, this is prior to knowing that Mikey was going to jump on. But it's very interesting because Jeudy and Cortland Sutton essentially have the same ADP. They're both low to mid 30s wide receiver off the board. They're both going mid to late 7th round. DJ, here's the difference. I've got Jerry Jeudy wide receiver 27 and Cortland Sutton 36. You're close with Jeudy at 28, but you're much higher on Cortland Sutton at 21. And what I'm going to say is I remember back to podcast last year saying it's just a matter of time. Cortland Sutton was the wide receiver 1, and we're talking pre-injury. It's just a matter of time before these two guys are considered wide receiver 1A and wide receiver 1B. Well, I think that time – I'm not taking a victory lap. I'm just saying that time is here. And I think we might have surpassed that because if you go back even a couple of podcast episodes ago, Drippy Tattoo Boy – I've talked about this before with wide receivers, especially when you come off that knee injury, that next year back never seems to be like a huge boom season. It's always let's get back. You make some noise, you get healthy. It's the second year after that. So when I see you ranking Cortland Sutton wide receiver 21, I say great. Take him, get him out of the picture. Like let me have the other guys. Whereas if I'm getting Jerry Jeudy in the late 7th, early 8th, and yes, I'm going to put it out there. I had him. I was in like 6 fantasy leagues last year. I think I had him in 6. I had him in every fantasy league that I was in last year. That was a mistake. I bought into that rookie hype. He never became that guy that you could use every single week. I don't want to be super early to this party because I've done this with rookies before. But Jesus, if it's going to happen to somebody, it's going to happen to this guy. So this is a guy that I'm willing to take. He's going at 7-11. I would potentially look at him late 6, depending on my roster shakeup, or early 7. Like depending on how it looks, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a player that you can rely on as a guy in your starting lineup every single year. Or not every single year. Well, probably every single year, but every single week. Whereas Cortland Sutton, I think you're going to have some decent weeks. But that injury, like everyone that's at camp and reporting says, yeah, he's just not there yet. Like he's cleared, he's playing, but he's just not there yet. So to try to draft Cortland Sutton over Jerry Jeudy is crazy to me at this point. So DJ, I'll give it to you because you're shaking your head like you got Tourette's.
No, to me, it just comes down to what you guys okay? I don't think that's Tourette's. It's fuck shit ass. To me, it comes down to I've seen Cortland Sutton. He's one of those guys that can make a bad quarterback look good just by his talent. And I saw Jerry Jeudy, and he's so far, obviously last year. I think he's a talented wide receiver, but I just saw a guy who played very bad and is still figuring it out. Obviously, Cortland Sutton is making his way back from injury. But I do trust that Cortland Sutton is going to be that guy that they're going to go to, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, when they need to be bailed out of a situation. He's the more athletic, guy he's better at the peak at the attack.
I like to say he's the Ian Ayer wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy's an on the ground wide receiver.
More trusted, more years in the league, figured it out a little bit longer. Obviously, like you just said, and I just said, he was out for a year. But it's just I feel like he's going to be the guy they lean on a little bit more. And I'm not gonna buy into this preseason hype, into this feeding a guy too much. Terrace Marshall getting 1 million targets, fucking Jerry Jeudy getting 1 million targets. It's vanilla defense, and they're trying to put something in just to see what they have, to see how they react to the. So I'm not going to change based on that. I still love Cortland Sutton. So if they're both there at the same time and I have to choose between the two, it's going to be Cortland Sutton.
Mikey, I don't have your rankings up, so it's going to be a surprise to me as to what you say here. But you're on the board. You need a wide receiver. These are two of the options. Do you have a preference between one or the other, or are you just looking a completely different way?
So out of all of us, I'm the lowest on Cortland Sutton and the highest on Jerry Jeudy. So that should answer your question. Nice. So, yeah, I have Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 25. I have Cortland Sutton as wide receiver 38. I want nothing to do with him this year. And funny enough, so Jerry Judy's ADP is 711. I got him at 708 in my draft tonight. So, there's that. And Cortland Sutton went about 8 or 9 picks later. So, pretty consistent with the ADP, very close together. Jerry Jeudy is he's awesome. And the only reason why he had a bad rookie year was because of drops. And but DJ, are you like I'm not concerned about that at all, because a professional wide receiver, someone who makes it to the NFL, catching balls for a living, if there's one thing that they can fix, it's the aspect of catching balls. He gets open. Right. He gets open very easily. He is a monster to tackle in the open field. He's just awesome. And I think he's going to do really, 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 really well this year. With Cortland Sutton, I'm kind of on the same boat as Ben. Like, I'm not banking on a big return from the injury. Even before the injury, like, maybe wrongfully so, but I was never a big Cortland Sutton fan. I've never had him on a fantasy team. I've never wanted to have him on a fantasy team. Like,
crazy.
He just doesn't do it for me. And I'm really not expecting much out of this year. I mean, if you can't even count on him as the top red zone target in that offense, because they have Noah Fant. I'm sorry.
You gotta slam a beer. I forgot about that. We had a bet.
What are you talking about?
We had a bet on the last podcast we recorded, whether it was officially pronounced Noah Fant or Noah Font, and the loser had to slam a beer. Let's not do it this week. Let's do it the next time we record, because I want to make a bigger deal about it.
Well, you suck, but either way, I want nothing to do with Cortland Sutton. I want everything to do with Jerry Jeudy. I'm drafting Jerry Jeudy a trillion times out of a trillion times over.
In Cortland Sutton's last season, he full healthy season, he performed his expectations times to 1,000.
Yeah, but there were no expectations on him coming into the season.
But he outperformed it by 1,000.
That's hard to deny. If there were no expectations. The nice thing too, so Mikey, you talked about the drops, and that was obviously something that happened and that he needs to improve on. And I think I read something about, he admitted his game is to get the ball in his hand, and then he's already wondering about what move he wants to make on the defender before he even catches the ball. And he admitted that got into his head. The play speed got faster. Defenders were there quicker. He just wasn't catching the ball. He wasn't putting an emphasis on that. So the emphasis throughout the offseason became you still got to have that instinct, and you're never going to get that out of a guy of Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Judy's always been a freak with the ball in his hand, so he's already thinking about that next move. But just putting a little bit more emphasis on the catch. Let's figure that out, and then we're going to make the yards after the catch. And we've seen it in the preseason. There was a stat. There's there's 3 receivers that have 2+ catches of 30+ yards so far this year, and he's one of the guys. And that catch against the Vikings was reminiscent of Week 1 last year when they played the Titans. Dude caught the ball, stopped on a dime. Just stopped, left the defender, and then just circled around everybody, and then just ran for numerous yards, because he didn't time great, but he's still a fast receiver. He's still quick, and he's still super shifty with the ball. So it's all about his success is ultimately going to depend on whether Bridgewater and Locke become that quarterback that can just get the ball in his hands, because once the ball is in his hands, he'll create for himself, which is the nice thing about a receiver like that. Same thing can be said about a guy like Deebo Samuel versus your Cortland Suttons, your Devontae Parkers, your receivers that are going to make those jump ball catches, because that's not really Jerry Jeudy's game. He did it once last year against the Jets for his first ever touchdown. I remember that game, Thursday Night Football. But that's not his game. He's not going to be able to rely on something like that. So I think it is going to depend a lot on the quarterback, but I'm going to take my risk. Late 7th, early 8th, I'm Jerry Jeudy. I can't turn my back on that. DJ, do you want to have the last word on that, or are you just going to succumb to the fact that Jerry Jeudy is the better option?
Finishes wide receiver 19 is 2019 season. I don't know.
1,000 times better. You're right.
1,000 times better. He was 51 in 2018.
I mean, here's the rebuttal, and I know we want to move on to the tight end, but here's the rebuttal with that. When Cortland Sutton had the season that he did, there were no other options on the team to throw the ball to.
Doesn't that make it more like he was just catching it over people because he was bailing guys out?
There were no other listen, dude. There were no other options on the team, right? This is the exact same conversation that I can have with you that we've had weeks ago about Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram hasn't done jack shit in the league since he was the only person on the team. Cortland Sutton.
Go back to drops though.
Cortland Sutton did not have Jerry Jeudy on the team. Cortland Sutton did not have Noah Fant on the team. Cortland Sutton did not have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon on the team, or even Tim Patrick for that fucking matter. Like, it's just Cortland Sutton. He's not as unique in this offense.
Tim Patrick.
Well, either way, Tim Patrick. No, Tim Patrick was with the Ravens at that point. I'm pretty sure.
2019. I'm pretty sure.
Or not
Tim
the
Patrick
Ravens.
was on that team, wasn't he?
Not the Ravens. I don't know. Now I need to see. But regardless, I'm going to look this up and I'll just interrupt you guys in the next segment. But yeah, Cortland Sutton. It is a completely different scenario for him this time around, and I yes, we can have a Tim Patrick debate. I love Tim Patrick. He's fucking awesome. But either way, Jerry Jeudy is just
2 first names.
leaps and bounds better. But we'll move on to Noah Fant. Fine.
What'd you call him?
Fant.
Sounds like you've succumbed to the way I think about things. Appreciate that, Mikey. We will we'll cash in on that bet next week.
Oh, and I did look up Tim Patrick in 2019. He started a whopping 2 games. So,
but he was on the team, right?
He was on the team.
Right.
He was.
Doesn't matter then. That's all that matters. He was on the team.
Mikey at this point is winning like the comprehensive version of these arguments, but DJ's winning the factual, like the 1,000% better when there's no expectations. Clear DJ win.
That's true.
Was he on the team? Clear DJ win.
I mean, he was. All that was literally what we said. I said he was on the team.
He's on it. Let's transition to the tight end position because it's Noah Fant. He's going as the tight end 7, middle of the 7th round. I've got him at tight end 8. DJ doesn't rank tight ends.
I am at 7.
I was going to say Mikey's a mystery, but he's no longer a mystery because he's got at tight end 7. But with that, Mikey, based on everything you've said about the tight end position over the last few weeks, is it safe to say that Noah Fant will be on 0 of your rosters?
Well, he's on one of my rosters as of tonight. And I really fucked up because I didn't realize until after the draft that I drafted 3 Denver Broncos. I have Fant, Jeudy, and Javonte Williams, but there's plenty of worse guys to have. Noah Fant actually fell. He was
if you played on Aaron Rodgers next year, then you're if you're in a dynasty or keeper, then fucking money.
It's keeper. It doesn't really. Yeah, but I'm not gonna keep him over. I mean, I got Christian McCaffrey tonight. Like, I'm not gonna keep him over him or nothing like that.
Aaron Rodgers for 2 or 3 years.
Noah Fant fell so far in my draft. Like I took him as my backup tight end because he was like sitting there as tight end 11, and I was just like, that's just extreme value right now. Like I can't let that pass by. This is not an offense that presumably can keep 3 guys fantasy relevant from the receiver position. So like Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Noah Fant. But I can go back to last year, Teddy Bridgewater with the Carolina Panthers. I understand completely different offense, but I'll go back to it. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel were all top 25 fantasy wide receivers in PPR last year. So like if Noah Fant replaces one of them and Cortland Sutton replaces one and Jerry Jeudy replaces one, Noah Fant could actually put together a half decent year as a tight end. And he's dangerously close to falling in the tight end 8 through tight end 16 category, sitting here at tight end 7 ADP. If I'm going to bet on someone in that tier to kind of like outplay that tier, it would probably be Fant.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. But I also agree with the fact that of what you said prior to that, it's like, can that offense support that many guys? Especially if both those running backs are going to be semi-fantasy relevant. If Sutton lives up to DJ's expectations, if Jeudy lives up to anywhere close to our expectations, that's going to impact Fant. And then I look at him going as the 77th player off the board in fantasy. I look at Logan Thomas, 89, Tunyon, 99. Gronk 109, Gesicki 110. I think I'd rather wait. I'd rather wait the 30 spots and probably take one of those.
Evan Ingram.
You brought this guy up. Evan Ingram's 155. That's not the guy. But Zach Ertz, 56 player off board. That's twice as many players off the board after you're taking Noah Fant. So if you believe that Zach Ertz can return not even to where he was, because I think the 3 or 4 years prior to last year, he finished as like a top 6 tight end.
I think it was top 4.
He can even jump back into that top 8 or 9? Yeah, he was super high. I was trying to be conservative there. Clearly I was. But if you can wait twice as many picks and get that guy that's going to finish as a top even 8 to 9 tight end, I don't think Fant's going to land on any of my fantasy rosters.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I took him is because he fell to the point where I was looking at the board. Yeah, like I was looking at the board and I was like, okay, like it's this guy as like my wide receiver 5 or this guy as my RB3. Like,
right.
you know, like I'm not a big fan of drafting 2 tight ends, but it's just the value is there. And that's the only, like, I'm not taking him at 706 in a league. I'm not going to take him there. But if he fell to like 9 in ours. And I was just like, that seems ridiculous.
DJ, this is probably a terrible question that I know the answer to already. But if you're sitting there in the late, okay, I'm not going to answer. late 7th, early 8th, Noah Fant's on the board. You don't have a tight end yet. You're still going depth at running back and wide receiver over him.
Depends on the, you know what?
God damn it,
maybe I scoop a tight end if it's not a good quarterback in that position. Like I'll try to sneak a good quarterback in round 8. That could be a position where I'm like, I kind of like this guy. You know, if it's like a, Fant or Mark Andrews or whatever, it's like maybe I'll scoop a guy. I've got my 700 running backs and 2 or 3 wide receivers. So why not try to scoop this guy up real quick? I can see myself doing that.
What a very disproportionate fantasy roster that you will own.
Ben,
you right, Mikey?
No,
so
Ben, you're
like
frozen, dog. No, it's you.
Oh,
it's
my
you.
fault.
Yeah, it's all you.
All right. No, it's fine. All right.
DJ, I think.
Oh, boys. That wraps up the.
DJ, you got to take this over.
Go ahead.
All right, man. I think that ends the Loaded Box podcast for today. Thanks for tuning in. I think Ben says a lot of words. Check us out on check us out at Loaded Box Podcast, Twitter, Loaded Box Podcast, loadedboxpodcast.com. I think we even have an Instagram that I've been posting on a few times. Loaded Box Podcast there. Go on wherever you find wherever you find podcasts, Instagram. iTunes, wherever you find podcasts, listen to us there. Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts, Google Play, or I don't even think that exists anymore. I think it's Google Podcasts now because I'm a Droid listener. Ben, Mikey, you have anything else to add to this?
Ben, get some better internet. DJ, I love you. Bye, everybody.
Ben or Mikey, send us out.
See you, Mikey.
Bye.